Hi, thank you for joining me on this second part message. My name is Daisy Pooy, and I have two students that attend Christian Brothers Catholic Private High School in Sacramento, California. We are one of three Tongan families, and we make up a small percentage of the Asian Pacific Islander group. Purpose of my messages is to lay out all the facts of what truly happened to Principal Chris Orr. He was abruptly terminated last year this month. Who gets fired in mid-year? And on top of that, Chris Orr is a prominent member of the Sacramento community and has strong ties to the community. His wife, his two sons, his niece, his brother, his sister, several other family members are all CB alum. And so bringing him on board to serve as the very first minority, the very first person of color, first African American to be ever hired in the school's existence. So this school has been around since 1876, 145 years. And it was Chris Orr's hiring that brought a breath of fresh air to many of our families and to many of our communities. And I say that because everything that took place last year, I took it very personal because there are many families out there like mine. We work extremely hard to bring our kids to Christian Brothers because we're looking for opportunity. We were looking for hope that our kids could be afforded higher education and would have an opportunity to make something of themselves. Now, I just want to make it clear that I didn't seek CB because I knew everything about Christian Brothers and that I wanted this reputation behind me. No, I didn't even know Christian Brothers' reputation until I was enrolled in CB and spent a year there. And I felt blessed, and my kids felt blessed to be in an environment that aligned with our personal values, our moral standards here at home, that our faith and our educational goals could run parallel with each other. And we were just blessed. But after spending 2 years of being in this great environment that I truly believed stood for something, I was completely shocked when I started meeting with families and hearing the truth about the various racial and discriminating series of events and experiences they felt while being an alum, while being a former teacher, and just students who recently graduated, and the stories that many of the parents brought forward. Many of you would say and have stated, in the past in response to some of our efforts that no, CB's never been this way. They are not discriminating or non-inclusive of all communities. Great on you that you had a great experience. Great on you that you never felt any type of lack of inclusivity per se. But that's not to say that these events didn't happen. And if you didn't sit in our meetings and heard it yourself, then you really don't have a lot of room to dispel whether or not these facts truly happened. So I'm here to stand up for our families and to seek accountability at the district level, San Francisco, New Orleans, LaSalle district level, and the Board of Trustees. It is your guys' responsibility to make sure that everything the school does aligns with our LaSalle values. And so far, all the communications that you sent out leading up to Chris Orr's termination and following his termination is all very one-sided. And You can't be biased. You have to do your job, your fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the school operates at its expectations, and that you also hold those accountable to those expectations as the school has for families and students who make up this school, who make up this community. And you definitely failed us. You failed our families, and it's a disappointment. And I expected a lot more out of the district. I expected a lot more out of the board. And you guys sitting here playing God, it is highly disrespectful and insulting to our families, whether you feel we belong at this school. And I say that because that's the image CB portrays to every family that is not so privileged. I say this because that is what I've encountered. Every time someone asks where we're at, how'd you get there? Oh, it's just for the rich. Oh, it's just this. Oh, we don't belong there. And this has been going on for decades. And I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to experience everything for myself and make that determination. And I thought that we were better than that. And it's disgusting to have a school sit here at our state's capital and pride itself in all these great values and all these great commitments that CB makes to help underserved communities, to help lower income families, to help bring inclusivity. If that's the case, then why the hell did it take 143 years for the school to finally hire someone of color to lead the school? How do you explain that? And then once you did that in 2.5 years, you discredit him and disrespect him by sending out this brief communication, October 14, 2019. Dear families, Mr. Chris Orr, who has served as principal for the past 2.5 years, has concluded his service to Christian Brothers High School effective immediately. We're talking about a prominent member of the community whose families are prominent members of the community. And Chris Orr has over 17 years of experience as an administrator, as an educator, as a dean of students. He received his MA from the LaSallian program at St. Mary's. And you mean to tell me that his termination was due to personnel matters that you can't share? And then after you've laid out all these communications to get in front of what you didn't expect was going to happen was a federal filing, you basically, and I'm talking about the board, I'm talking about former President Lorcan Barnes, I'm talking about the district office, you guys basically expressed your support of Lorcan Barnes before even going through a thorough investigation of why he was fired. First of all, the Board of Trustees and the district office didn't even know that Barnes fired Chris Orr. They did not even know. And Chris had contacted them and expressed his concerns for fear of retaliation because of his 360 review he provided at the board's request. Just so you know, April of last year, the board reached out to select members of the staff at CB, including Chris Orr, to provide their feedback on a 360 review on former President Lorcan Barnes. Chris was afraid of sharing the truth about how he was treated, about the lack of leadership by Lorcan Barnes. He was afraid of sharing the truth that he might get fired. And that's exactly what happened. And before he submitted his responses, he reached out to the district office and spoke to Mike Daniels, who's the director there, and told him that he was afraid of submitting his responses. And Mike Daniels advised him to state on the bottom of the response that he is afraid of retaliation if he were to submit his responses. And so he did just that. And that was in April last year. And then between April and June, the board contacted Barnes, shared the results with Barnes. And at the end of June, Barnes told the board that this would be his last year. And then 2 weeks later, July 16th, Barnes called Chris and told him, this will be your last year. So he went down and decided to take Chris down with him. And just 2 days after telling Chris that this would be his last year, the board announced to families on July 18th, check your emails, that this would be Lorcan Barnes' last year. So we knew that this would be Barnes' last year, but we didn't know this would be Chris's last year. So 1 month later, August last year, Chris contacted Brother Dan Morgan, who was a member of the Board of Trustees, and told Brother Dan that he was concerned that Barnes was retaliating, discriminating against him. Brother Morgan Dad was not aware that Barnes decided to end Orr's tenure. Barnes had made the decision without consulting the Board of Trustees. So Brother Morgan referred Orr to speak to Board Chair Steve Mahaney. And in September last year, Orr reached out to Steve Mahaney, expressed his concerns about Barnes' retaliation and discrimination, and Mahaney asked Orr to give him some time to determine the extent of the board's involvement and stated that he would call him back. And then when Steve Mahaney finally called Orr back, he advised Orr that he had shared his concerns with Barnes and that Barnes had the governance authority to make the decision to end Orr's tenure. Notably, even though Orr reported Barnes' discrimination, retaliation, and harassment to the LaSallian District of San Francisco, New Orleans, and to the Board of Trustees, an investigation never took place, which is contrary to the school's policy. So the timing of these events leading up to Orr's abrupt termination clearly states that the district and the Board of Trustees failed to uphold their fiduciary responsibilities to the families, to the school, to uphold the school's reputation. You definitely did not do your job to seek the reasoning behind Orr's termination, nor did you care about the concerns he expressed. And in your own correspondence, you expressed your support of Barnes without even checking all the facts. You ultimately made that decision from the get-go. And I want to point something out here. So for those of you who don't have a copy of the federal lawsuit, check the LaSallian Principals page on Facebook. It's posted in a link. I will find it and reshare it, but you can also create a Pacer account, sign up to do a query with the U.S. Eastern District Courts of California, and you can find the federal lawsuit there, including the response. So there are 8 claims for racial discrimination in employment that Chris Orr filed against Christian Brothers and Lorcan Barnes. And the school and Lorcan Barnes had to respond legally to these claims, which was also filed March 16th earlier this year. So those responses are in here. I am going to briefly cover a couple facts, and then I'm going to break this up because there's a lot of disturbing information here that families need to know and need to understand that CB paints a great picture. I believed it. I truly thought that we represented something bigger, and that the community just misinterpreted CB, but I was wrong, and I'm here to straighten that out. So if you turn to the lawsuit that Chris filed on page 5, that's section 6, part 13. This is the filing that Chris stated. The school is located in the Oak Park area, southeast of downtown Sacramento. The neighborhood has a large number of Black and Hispanic residents, and the surrounding area has some of the highest concentrations of Black and Hispanic residents in Sacramento County. And Barnes and the school replied, defendants admit that the school is located in the Oak Park area, southwest of downtown Sacramento. Defendants are without knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to the truth or falsity of the remaining allegations, and on that basis deny each and every remaining allegation contained therein. So you mean to tell me of the 13 years that Barnes was president there, and of the 143, now 145 years the school has been in Sacramento, you don't know what type of families or communities surround Christian Brothers? You mean you don't know who your neighbors are and who the families you serve? Now let me tell you this. October 28th, the school, 2 weeks after sharing this short, brief note about Chris Orr concluding his service, 2 weeks later, they sent this email out, very lengthy email, highlighting the fact that the board holds sacred their covenant to ensure that the school and its leaders uphold the tenets of our LaSalle core principle. That's BS, because they clearly sided with Barnes without doing an investigation. So where's the justice in that? Furthermore, they go on to say, in the areas of inclusivity and respect, Christian Brothers is blessed to welcome students from a variety of ethnic, economic, and spiritual backgrounds. According to Niche Rankings list of most diverse private high schools, CB ranks #1 locally and in the top 2% nationally based on ethnic, economic, and cultural diversity. Our longtime commitment to an inclusive community and respect for all persons is unwavering. Over the past 15 years, the racial diversity of our student body has grown 15%. With a deep understanding of and appreciation for the blessings that this diversity brings, the school's leadership team developed a diversity and inclusion strategic plan in early 2016. So they go on to state that, right? What makes up those numbers? Well, first of all, I can tell you Asian Pacific Islanders, very small percentage. African American, Hispanic, and every other nationality that comprise the body of this school is a very small percentage. And I truly feel that the small percentage is to check off a quota, to meet the mark. And once you meet that mark, that's it. That is it. That is the honest truth. We are diverse. We as in CB are diverse because you fill in the gaps just enough to meet that mark. And that's a fact. And to state in your lawsuit that you're without knowledge or information to form a belief that you have no idea about the neighborhood consisting of a large number of Black Hispanic residents in the surrounding area, and you're in Oak Park and you don't know what those numbers look like? Well, that's BS, because along with that email, you included a inclusion statement that you guys put together in February 2017. And I'm going to point this out because this is important here, okay? This contradicts their response, that they do not have sufficient amount of information to know whether or not there is a large number of Black and Hispanic residents in the surrounding area. Christian Brothers High School model of Enter to Learn, Leave to Serve first adorned the front of the school's Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Wing Tower in 2002. Yet concern for the poor and social justice have been vital components of the educational philosophy of the Christian Brothers for more than 300 years. Centuries after De La Salle established the Institute of the Brothers of the Christian Schools, the faculty, staff, and students of Christian Brothers High School share the faith and zeal throughout our Oak Park community and beyond. Every month, students participate in Oak Park Cleanup. Oak Park Cleanup is detention. You're not doing a service, you're serving detention. Building relationships while improving the quality of life for all. 2 afternoons each week, members of CB LaSalle's youth walk to Oak Ridge Elementary, which is also in Oak Park, where they tutor and mentor the boys and girls who receive after-school care. They also organize a Christmas party, collecting and distributing hundreds of holiday gifts for students of pre-kindergarten classes and beyond. Every Friday morning, when many of us are still sleeping, CB's Wellspring Club members are busy making breakfast and bag lunches for the women and children served at Oak Park's Art Garden, at Oak Park's phenomenal Wellspring Women's Center. Just this week, CB Art students took their talents and creativity to Oak Park's garden, where they further enhanced this emerging community gem. CB's La Raza Club is busy building and gathering altars for this month's Dia de los Muertos celebration in Oak Park, and Christian Service is gearing up for the Yes We Can food drive in partnership with Williams Memorial Church, also in Oak Park. CB students enthusiastically collect and deliver thousands of food items to enhance Pastor Meek's efforts at ensuring that Oak Park families have all that they need to enjoy a festive and filling holiday meal at Thanksgiving. While these are just examples of the myriad ways in which CB students and families touch the lives of our community's most vulnerable, the school's commitment to our neighbors and service is enduring and unchanged. Yes, you do in fact know what type of families make up the community surrounding Christian Brothers. So you can't say you did not have sufficient amount of information because you specifically target African American, CB's La Raza Club, Hispanic communities surrounding Christian Brothers as a means to say that students are leading in service. You put this inclusion statement out in February 2017. You have sufficient amount of information here to make a pretty legitimate assumption that yes, you do serve Black and Hispanic residents in the surrounding area. What disturbs me is the fact that you highlight these great opportunities to say that this is everything CB does. Enter to learn, leave to serve. I can guarantee you that if you were to survey seniors right now, even seniors in the last couple years, and ask them, what are you really learning when you enter to learn and leave your serve? What is your mission when you leave here, and how are you serving? School doesn't teach you that. That starts at home. That's the model that starts at home. And yes, these opportunities, the volunteer opportunities are provided at the school, just like they're provided on Sac County websites and other organizations. You can't say at many times that this states Oak Park, that in the first part of this lawsuit, you didn't have sufficient amount of information to state what clearly Principal Chris Orr did his due diligence. That's what you do when you serve, when you lead. You lead the school and you get to know your families. All right, shall we move on? A couple more here. This lawsuit is pretty disturbing. There's a lot of information here that I like to cover. And tonight, I'm just going to cover through a couple of them. All right, so that was section 13 on page 5 on the federal lawsuit, right? And just a reminder here, this note here in Orr's claim is pretty damn true. At the time of his hiring, Orr believed that his historic hiring signaled that the school was prepared to address its historically low numbers of minority students, particularly Black students, to better reflect the surrounding community. I can't tell you how many families came to our meetings and spoke to this effect. They've lived in the Oak Park community for years and decades, and they can't even get in to the own damn school down the street from their house. And why is that? Why is that? And you want to put out this statement about inclusivity and respect and diversity. You guys sent this message out 2 weeks after Orr's termination, highlighting an issue that you knew Orr brought to the table, and all the details and facts of the school's lack of leadership to protect these values is all spelled out here. And why would Orr go this far, knowing damn well it might cost him his job, because it means something to us. It means something to him, and it means something to us, that we're talking about the dignity and respect of many families. And it is not okay for the board and the district to treat this so lightly. So when Chris Orr started in July of 2017, 3 months later, he hired Michelle Williams, the first minority to hold this position as assistant principal. 3 months after he started, he hired Mrs. Williams. She's the first African-American assistant principal at the school. Again, I asked, why did it take the school, who prides itself on this mission statement of inclusivity and respect, why did it take them 143 years to hire the first African-American principal and the first African-American vice principal? And then Barnes went ahead and fired the vice principal, who served under Chris Orr, without his knowledge. Just terrible. I'm going ahead to section 17 of the federal lawsuit on page 6. I'm sorry, section 16. To that end, Orr initiated outreach efforts with Oak Park community organizations to foster a spirit of student community service and to spike interest in local families sending their children to the school. Parents talked about this. Parents brought these concerns up in our meetings. And they're sick and tired of seeing CB continue to bus in kids from everywhere but their own community. So going back to this, foster a spirit of student community service and to spike interest local families sending their children to the school. Such outreach efforts included foregoing bonds with the local prominent black church, St. Paul's Baptist Church. Before Orr had arrived, the school had not made any outreach efforts to St. Paul's. Now let me touch on that. We held our parent meetings at St. Paul's because we needed a space, and someone offered us space to meet that was close to the school, so it made it feasible for parents and students to leave from school and go around the corner and meet at St. Paul's. St. Paul's parking lot backs up to CB's baseball field. And not once has any administrator from Christian Brothers stepped foot at St. Paul's, ever. And St. Paul's Church has a family life center that hosts a ton of amazing programs and workshops for the local kids, tutoring, providing them with meals, a space to play sports. And not once has one administrator from Christian Brothers stepped foot in that family life center, except for Orr. Orr was the first administrator to walk in to St. Paul's and introduce himself as the principal of Christian Brothers, and also offer assistance in partnering with them and asking them, how do we get more students from this community to CB? And their parking lot backs up to the baseball field. So what are we missing here? I can vouch for this as a fact because I was in the meeting when the director at St. Paul's, who's been there for 15 years, has seen this revolving door of principals coming and going and families coming and going, and never has anyone reached out to them and asked, how do you help the student? How do you help the kids of that community build up to an opportunity to be at CB? Never. So what is our real purpose there? I thought our purpose there at Christian Brothers here in the Oak Park was to serve those families. And there's a very small percentage. And just to touch on that real quick, back when we were highlighting some of our outreach efforts, Superintendent Cerna of Sacramento had a program that he had called former President Barnes about, had a program that he called him about and wanted to partner with Barnes in getting more students in that zip code, in that radius of Christian Brothers. He wanted to partner with him and figure out how do we get more families there in that community into CB. And Barnes turned him down and said he didn't need his help. I'm sharing straight facts. Straight facts. Now this has gone on, and I have a lot more to cover. It's been lengthy, but I'm going to cut it right here, and I will share more of this message with you in my next part, video 3. So if you have any questions, if you have any issues, you can message me at lasallingprincipals@gmail.com. I'm out to seek justice. Principal Orr may have a federal lawsuit open, but that does not mean that justice wasn't served for our families. And I'm talking about years of heartache. And I'm seeking justice for those people too, and those families, because we do give a damn. And this school is not everything that they paint themselves to be. And I'm telling the straight hard truth as a parent here myself. I am here to restore our values, because the board in LaSalle District is not doing that at all. So thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing more of this lawsuit with you guys later. Thank you.